This is an unboxing and installation of the SAM Controller's Intelligent Well Pump Controller, Model 100. This unit is going to be installed outdoors on a 1 horsepower pump. It's configured with a detached display and a heater output option. Alright, we got everything unpackaged. So we have the controller here, this is the remote display, and this is the pressure sensor. What we're going to do is do a brief test before we set this unit up outside in the well housing. This here is the input for the pressure sensor, so we're going to connect that pressure sensor into here. Underneath here you'll note some things. This is the buzzer, and this is the humidity and temperature sensor that monitors the outside conditions where this controller is installed. And this option is shipping with a heater option, so we'll turn on a small heater in the area where this is installed to prevent the pipes from freezing in the winter. On each unit you'll see an electrical connection box right here. What we're going to do is take these 2 screws off. Alright, inside of this box here you'll see there's some wires. So you'll see the blue, it says pump, and then the red says input. So these wires, one set goes to the pump, one set goes to your power that comes into this controller. And then this set of wires is a relay output for the heater. Now another thing you'll see is a green wire, which is the ground wire. You want to connect this wire to both the ground and then the well ground. For reference, this is how a typical well pump is wired with a pressure switch. And here's how the SAM well pump controller is connected. Currently we're only connecting the power input. To set everything up, what we're going to do is we're going to take this wire and connect power to this unit. This is the output wires for that eventually goes to your pump. We're going to put some wire nuts on it. Next, we always want to connect the ground first. Anytime you're working with electricity, the first connection should always be the ground connection. Next, we'll connect the phases. Now the next thing is installing the pressure sensor. What we want to make sure is that these notches line up with the notches on the controller. You want to screw it in nice and tight. Now normally when you install this box you would have all the wires, input and output wires going through these housings here. Since this is call it a tabletop test, we have a lot of this stuff exposed. Alright, we're just gonna make sure that the connections are correct. So you have the power, the ground connected for the incoming, the outgoing pump connectors are capped. So if this unit energizes these 2 lines, nothing will happen since we don't have a well pump here. Alright, now this wire is energized here. So what we're gonna do is carefully tilt this box over, and there's a switch on this side here. And it's the on-off switch. We're gonna turn it on now. The controller is starting up and performing a self-test. If the power is interrupted in the last working cycle, a message will appear stating that. This is the default and first screen of the SAM well pump controller. This screen displays operation, usage, and diagnostics information for the well pump. The top line indicates the system pressure. Currently, it's at 0 psi as the sensor is connected but not installed. Over to the right, we see the status of the pump. Currently, it's on. The next line displays pump cycles. The first number indicating the amount of lifetime cycles, followed by the number of pump cycles that happened today. In the bottom line is the cut-on and cut-off pressure for the pump. These pressures are set and configured at the factory and can be customized for your particular setup. We're going to now disconnect the power and unplug the pressure sensor and proceed to install the controller on site. Some tools and materials that would be required are a screwdriver and general plumbing tools. The pressure sensor is a 1/8 NPT male thread. So you may require plumbing fittings that will allow it to connect into the existing plumbing setup. The sensor can be disconnected from the wiring harness to ease installation. You will also need some twist-on wire connectors or whatever is appropriate for the wiring type. If you have purchased the mounting bracket, you will need the tools to drill it into the surface you are attaching it to. This is the well housing that the SAM well pump controller is being installed in. Based on this particular configuration, the first thing that we're going to do is locate where to mount the controller and pressure sensor. We're going to choose to use the available port on the tank T that currently has a plug in it and leave the pressure switch where it is. Alternatively, we can as well take the pressure switch off and install the pressure sensor in its place. Before we unscrew anything, it's best to turn off the power breaker going to the pump and drain the tank. Once that's done, we unscrew the plug, add an elbow, riser, and fitting that connects the male end of a 1/8 thread NPT digital pressure sensor. And when it's installed, you might want to briefly turn on the power and check that there are no leaks. Now you will want to mount the controller within the reach of the pressure sensor, input power, and pump wires. The controller can be mounted on a backplane or with a metal floor bracket as seen here. Next, we'll unscrew the top cover of the pressure switch and check that the power has been disconnected. Once it's known that the pressure switch is de-energized, we're going to remove all the wires, making note of where they go. Then the wires will be routed to be fed through the two fittings on the side of the controller. Now we're going to connect the ground, pump, and power input and connect the pressure sensor to the controller. At this point, it's a good idea to turn on the power and verify that everything is connected properly and see that the system works before finalizing the installation. The controller will power on, and once initialized, we should see that the pressure indicated on the SAM well pump controller's display is similar to that of the analog pressure gauge. The SAM water well controller is a fully digital system. It will measure and control the well pump much more accurately than a pressure switch. This will result in a more consistent water pressure year-round, together with savings on power and water from precision measurement and control. To finish the installation, we're going to once again disconnect the power, fit the wires inside the housing, and screw on the cover. Next, we're going to install the well cover and mount the external display. The installation of the SAM Intelligent Water Well Controller is now complete. For further information about the water well controller and available options, visit samcontrollers.com.